Hello, once again, this is Brother Teacher. Let me preface this by saying a lot of you may not like me after I finish this video, and that's okay. You've heard me say before, if you are a regular watcher of my material, that just because you don't like what I say doesn't mean it's not true. You reserve the right and you have the ability to go and check behind me. It's your liberty. I am not force feeding anything to anyone. Plain and simple. So now I shall begin. This subject is about the food and medical industry. Now take a deep breath. I did. There's something I want you to understand. We live in a world that's based on classism. Let's take a circle. It is a whole. Of that circle as it relates to the world in which we live, there's 1% that is the elite on our planet. The most powerful men and women on the planet. They own and run everything on the planet. Not presidents, not prime ministers, not governors, not dictators. These individuals we never see. They are hidden behind closed doors. They sit at the center of power of the world as we know it. Now, some might call them secret societies. Rothschilds, Bilderbergs, and so forth. Whatever you choose to accept and or call them is okay. But the fact remains that they do control the whole world. They run everything. Now, as much as we would like to believe that we live in a country, as it relates to America, that is, we want to believe that we live in a country that cares about its people, its population. It's a fantasy. At one time, it was so under the Republic, but it is not so today. We live in a world where once upon a time in America, there were people that were brought here from another continent, i.e. Africa, called Africans, against their will, to be free labor who aided in building this nation. And the descendants of those Africans are referred to commonly as African Americans, or black people, or Negroes. And I am one of those individuals, even though I don't necessarily subscribe to those terms. But I can just simply say I am a man that is black in America. And that my foreparents, many generations before me, were here on this continent as well, against their will. Now, with that said, black people have been the most disenfranchised group of people in America than any other race. Am I saying that there were never Chinese slaves? No, I'm not. Am I saying that there have never been white slaves? No, I am not, because there have been. But to perpetuate slavery in a sophisticated manner, when it's no longer overt but it's now covert in our nation, is a different thing. And what I mean by that is this: every individual that was once upon a time, their ancestors, I should say, slaves, That's over for them. All other nationalities that have been enslaved historically, they're no longer slaves for the most part. But black people still are. We're still the most underserved group of people on the planet. As far as reparations were concerned, they've never been addressed for the atrocities that have been carried out against our ancestors and even us today. I'm speaking sort of in generality. I'm not going to go too far in specifics as far as that is concerned, but I'm going to fast forward. When we once upon a time had just black people as slaves in America, in North America, I want you to know, unless you are in the 1% of the population that runs everything, we are all now slaves. The United States, as we know it, is a corporation, not a country. America is the country. The United States is the corporation. It is a for-profit business. It has been for quite a while. Okay, now, we live in a situation that is called really a slave management situation. The United States is a slave management company. Yes, and we are its servants. We feed that machine called the United States our sweat equity, all of us. The poor, the working poor, and the middle class are all part of that slave management system. Yes, I know the so-called middle class thinks that they're doing pretty good, making six figures a year, many of them. But you are in this boat with us as well. A lot of them from that class have a tendency to look down their nose at the poor and the working poor as if they were better than them. But I want you to know, you are a slave as well. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. It's rhetorical. Do you ever, or do you think you have ever seen a millionaire shop at Walmart? Or a billionaire? Nah, you'll never see it. Do you think when you go and sit at Frisch's, McDonald's, Fridays, Applebee's, that there's a millionaire sitting there with you or a billionaire sitting there with you? No, it doesn't happen. You may, from time to time, depending on where you are in America, maybe Atlanta, maybe in California, maybe in Florida, maybe in Hollywood, rub shoulders with a celebrity or movie star or whomever, somebody who is renowned, okay? But guess what? Even they are part of the slave management system. How so, might you add, young weed hopper? Well, as I began in this video, I said that there's a 1%. This 1% is not comprised of millionaires. This is the most filthy rich 1% that I'm referring to. As I said, you don't see these individuals. So a millionaire is really still a puppet as well. I remember one comedian saying not too long ago about being rich and being wealthy. And he used a basketball player as an example. He said, this basketball player is rich. The one that pays his salary and writes and signs his check, he's wealthy. And there is a difference. So that wealthy individual you may see on the basketball court or sitting off on the line watching his team play and so forth. But there are people even above that individual as well. I hope you get my point. There is a difference between being rich and being wealthy. All right? Now, so what's going on with the food and the medical industry? Take a deep breath. This is perhaps one of the most valuable videos that you will ever see, coming from me. Now, I'm not going to hold your patience. I'm not going to run us in the ground for an hour or two. I'm just going to touch on some things. And I'm going to hope that you do your due diligence and that you find it to be true, which you will, if it's not self-explanatory already. First of all, I want to ask you a question. All you men and women, and perhaps children or teenagers. Why is it that we cannot go to a grocery store and buy food that has no additives, no artificial colors and ingredients, no pesticides, no herbicides, no insecticides, no genetically modified organisms? And the list goes on. Why is it that we cannot go to our local grocery store and find 100% unadulterated food? I give you a moment. We can't find it. Not in your regular grocery store. It's not there. Why does the FDA or Food Drug Administration allow food manufacturers and companies to put all of these harmful and carcinogenic chemicals in our food that we have to ingest that cause cancer, as I said, and all manners of disease and ailments over time? Why? Dairy products are unhealthy in any form. It's not organic milk. It is milk that's been processed, pasteurized, homogenized. All of any nutrition that's in it from its inception is destroyed. They fortify or they add things to our food, saying that it is good for us when it is not. You look at a canned good, anything packaged in a can. You read the ingredients on green beans, and there's 20 things in that can along with the green beans. You buy a loaf of bread. We know it's made out of flour, wheat, bleached flour, but there's 30 other ingredients that are not natural. Why? Artificial coloring. As I said before, we have foods that have been genetically modified and is being approved and allowed to enter into our grocery stores for our consumption. Now, I touched on the food. Let's touch on the water. Who governs the water? Now, let's use for a moment the fact that Flint, Michigan has been without pure water for quite a while now. They even knew that the water was tainted with lead and mercury and various other harmful chemicals, and they never said anything. That's just Flint, Michigan. But our regular municipal water in all cities and states contains hundreds of chemicals chlorine, lead, arsenic, mercury, aluminum, cadmium. Stop. And then it's all of the pharmaceutical drugs that people flush down the toilet. And then it's the runoff from chemical plants in our water supply. It's the pesticides, insecticides, and the herbicides that's used on our farm crops that when it rains, it runs into our sewer system. And surely you can imagine many, many other things. So, we are drinking this water and we are bathing in this water. Stop. I mentioned the food and I mentioned the water. The deodorants that we use on our bodies, the rub-on deodorants that you put under your arm, contains aluminum and has long since been carrying aluminum as part of its ingredients, along with the other artificial fragrances and so forth. Aluminum is a neurotoxin in our bodies. It causes Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, and other cognitive issues in the human body. It was never intended to be there. When you rub deodorant under your arm, it is absorbed into your skin, absorbed into your blood, and then it circulates throughout your body and it touches your brain at some point, allowing you not to function at your optimum over time. You get my points so far. Now, the medical industry. It is impossible for any of us to ever go to the hospital and become healed. I'm going to say it again. If any of us who are suffering with an ailment, a malady, a disease, especially cancer, it is impossible for any of us to go to a hospital to become healed. These diseases and conditions will never be eradicated. And there's an obvious reason. Let's look at it like this. If there are thousands of patients that come to a hospital for care, and those thousands of patients, let's just pick a round number, let's say 10,000 patients that come to a particular hospital monthly, whatever their conditions may be, if all of those patients were to become healed, what happens? You no longer have any need for the doctors, the nurses, the medication. That's real simple. Do I have to draw that out for you? If that 10,000 patients is healed of their condition, their disease, their cancer, then there are no more patients to come to the hospital facility. They become healed. So it affects the hospital financially. It affects the revenue of the hospital when we are all healed, because the hospitals, however bitter pill this is for you to swallow, the hospital is a business. All hospitals are businesses. Now, if all of those 10,000 people were healed and no longer had to go to the hospital, the doctors would lose their jobs. The administrators would lose their jobs. The nurses and the orderlies and all of the staff would lose their jobs. And the executives, the shareholders of those places, because it's in the stock market as well. All corporations are in the stock market. All you need to do is look it up on Brad Street and done. But anyway, they would all lose revenue. So the system of medicine was ingeniously set up so that that never happens. So they became very, very wise in the administration of medicine. So much so, instead of healing their clients, their patients, they maintain them so that they remain patients or consumers forever. Do you honestly believe that there is no cure for cancer? I'm not beating up on anyone. I'm just asking you to think. Do you believe that there's no cure for cancer or for diabetes or any other disease? High blood pressure or hypertension, lupus, MS. Do you think there's no cure for these things? There is. There's someone said a long time ago, and it's been repeated, and that is that disease begins in the gut. Healing begins in the gut, in the intestines, in the stomach. Ladies and gentlemen, it is what we're eating. It is what we're ingesting. Same thing. It is what we are drinking. It is what we are absorbing through our skin. Inhaling the chemicals in the air. And there are chemicals in the air that are deliberately being put in our air through chemtrails and various other methods. There are chemicals that's being put on our produce, our foods. There's chemicals that are being injected in our livestock, pigs, cows, sheep, chickens, turkeys, whatever. Being introduced into ponds and lakes and oceans and affecting all of the living creatures. And when we are consuming that, it's affecting us as well. And when it affects us in a negative way, we become patients of a system called the medical system. And then their very close friend called the pharmaceutical industry joins in by prescribing us through the doctors medications that cause cancer, that never heal us, that are not biologically, symmetrically beneficial to us. It's not. Never has been, never will be. These medicines were created in laboratories ingeniously by very, very smart men and women. For what? The maintenance of humanity. For profit. If they don't make any money, they go out of business. I've already alluded to that and was even specific about that earlier. There's money in illness. There's money in cancer. There's money in a sick patient, but there's no money in someone who is healed. It's that simple. I told you earlier, this is perhaps one of the most important videos of mine you will ever see. I hope that you record it. I hope that you share it, because you need to. I have a friend that was just diagnosed with cancer. Notwithstanding, I have had several friends and relatives die of cancer over the years. But you know what? They didn't have to. I wish I knew today what, uh, excuse me, I wish I knew then what I know now. That's what I was trying to say. I do. Maybe I could have effected some sort of positive change for those friends and family members that died of cancer because they didn't have to. If you have loved ones that have died of cancer, more than likely they didn't have to. But I'm going to tell you something real quick before I leave. Two things specifically. Number one, as it relates to cancer. Cancer lives in a acid environment. When you change that environment of the human body, that is, to alkaline, the cancer goes away. Do you need to pause a second? Okay, we're back. I'll say it again. This is scientifically accurate. It is the truth. It cannot be refuted. It cannot be debated. This is a fact. Cancer lives in an acid environment. It cannot survive in an alkaline environment. I am not a medical doctor, and I know this. The point is, after me telling you this, what you going to do with it? How is this going to change your life? Now, when people are diagnosed with cancer, the doctor, the oncologist, has 3 protocols. Let me turn my fingers around. Number 1 is surgery. Number 2, chemotherapy. And number 3, radiation. All of them do not fix your problem. You see, radiation and chemotherapy kills not only the cancer cells, and this is scientifically proved, and it's scientifically true, I should say, as well. Radiation and chemotherapy does not only kill cancer cells, it kills your good cells as well. Oftentimes, that once these 2 protocols are used on a person, even if the cancer goes away, it usually comes back with a vengeance and takes that individual's life anyway. And the reason being, real simple. Now listen to this. Your immune system has been compromised. Because if you kill the good cells, you've destroyed the person's immune system. And your immune system is not there to fight off any recurring cancer. So the cancer comes back multiplied, and it overwhelms that person, and it spreads or metastasizes throughout the human body somewhere, depending on where it began. Plain truth. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. It's the truth. Now, the other one is surgery. They're always quick to cut something out. This is not a normal thing for a human being to be cut on. It's not a normal thing for a human being to have invasive surgery where you split them down the middle and pull organs out and cut organs out that you were born with that were supposed to last a lifetime. This is not normal. Notwithstanding, this is the other part to that part that I was going to add earlier. 2 points I had to make. This is the second point. If I were in a car accident and I was crushed in the car and I was on top of a building 100 or 200 feet high and I fell off of the building, or I was trapped in a cave and I was deprived of oxygen, or I was swimming in the ocean and a shark bit off of one of my legs. These are all hypothetical situations. I want emergency medical care from the best surgeons that there are. And I want the best medicine. Am I contradicting myself from the previous argument? No. That is the only time that I, or even you, should ever want someone to service this human body and perform any kind of invasive surgery or any kind of drastic measures as far as medication is concerned. When it is a life or a death situation, I want that doctor. I want that surgeon. And you should as well. And I applaud all of the men, women that do care about human life, because their Hippocratic oath says do no harm. And many of them are doing harm every single day. Now, you said, but brother teacher, what you're saying sounds like you're contradicting yourself. No. Did you hear that I said emergency? Then let me back up a second and then I'm going to conclude. To go to a medical doctor as a regular checkup and so forth, that's okay. But anytime that doctor starts prescribing me medicine because I'm having headaches, I don't need that doctor. You know why? Medication for a headache or any other pain in your body is only doing what? It is covering up the pain. It is masking or disguising the pain so that we don't feel the pain, but the thing that is causing the problem is still there. That's what doctors won't do. They won't fix what's causing the pain. They cover the pain up. And over time, that's going to continue to worsen whatever that condition is. And it's going to manifest itself later in a more dramatic and horrifying way. And it could potentially be cancer. I'll use this example, and I've heard it used before. How many times have you been driving in your automobile and the check engine light has come on and you looked at it and then it went back off? Did you take it to the shop? They have the engine checked? Most people don't. They continue to drive. And then a month or so later, you're driving down the road, the check engine light comes on again. Stays on a little bit longer. You look at it, it shuts off. You ignore it. Continue to drive. Now you're going on a trip out of town and the car completely stops. Go figure. You should have paid attention to the symptom in the first place and had it addressed in the beginning so that it would have not gotten worse. The same is true in your body. When you feel a pain in your chest, a pain in your head, or a headache, or something severe, an acute pain, or even a very severe pain, and it goes away, you don't ignore it. You go find out what caused the pain, ladies and gentlemen. But we are creatures of habit. As long as the pain is gone, we say, it's okay. And then when time passes, the pain comes back again. It lasts for a short period of time and it goes away. We say, it's okay. I don't have any pain right now. Next thing you know, you have a stroke. You have a massive heart attack. You have obstructive bowel situation or whatever, some type of cancer, when all you had to do was some preventive maintenance. But before you ever had any of those conditions, any of those symptoms or warning signs, what you should have done was taking care of your temple, eating things that are real and not laden with poisons and artificial ingredients and chemicals. That's what we should have done. But you know what? The industry, the food industry, works hand in hand with the medical industry to keep us sick, because they don't want the majority of the population well, because we are the slaves. We are the ones that make money for the 1%. I hope you got the point. I hope you got the message. There were really many messages in this one message. So if you have to watch this video over and over again, do so. Absorb it. And understand and come to the conclusion that things are not as they appear and as we thought they have been all along. Things are by design to benefit the 1% from the 99%. This is Brother Teacher. I want you to know sincerely, as I always say, Yahweh loves you, and I love you dearly. Stay alert, stay aware, stay healthy, and stay educated. I'll see you in the next video. So long.